Rain turned Main Street into silver threads. Inside Corner Needle, a young seamstress counted coins for rent. Across the street, an old man was shoved from a café, coffee spilling like shame. She stepped in, bought 2 cups, and said, "Sit. With me." Destiny pulled out a chair. "Stay close, before we begin, tell us where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Your every comment, gift, and membership helps us bring more heart-touching stories to your life." The shop smelled of steam and starch. Nora Ellis, 26, stitched wedding hems by morning and uniforms by night. Her kid brother Eli studied. At the back table, headphones masking hunger and hope. Their apartment upstairs leaked when Rain got stubborn. Nora's grandfather had taught her, mend what you can, forgive what you can't. Across the street, the cafe door jolted open. An old man stumbled out, thin coat flapping. The barista scolded, "Tables are for paying customers." The manager nodded toward the door like mercy cost money. Nora's jaw set. She pushed inside, ordered 2 coffees and a cinnamon roll, and carried them to the sidewalk. "Please," she said, "sit with me." The old man blinked like remembering sunlight. "No one's asked me that in a long time." "Then today breaks the streak," Nora said, handing him warmth. So she went. Kindness chose her. He said, his name was Walter Reed, 73, a retired welder with a bridge builder's back that time had borrowed. His hands shook when he lifted the cup. "Haven't had company in a while," he murmured. Nora noticed the stitches on his sleeve, ragged, done by necessity. She smiled. "I fix stubborn seams for a living." Walter chuckled, then coughed, then stared toward the window like memory hurt. The barista wiped the same spot repeatedly, eyes hard. Customers pretended to scroll. Nora leaned closer. "You okay getting away from here?" He nodded. She slipped her arm through his and led him across to Corner Needle. Rain made a harp of the awning. Eli looked up, curious and cautious. "This is Walter," Nora said. "He's joining us for coffee and a fix." Walter's smile trembled, then settled. "Thank you for the chair," he whispered, as if chairs were miracles. Outside, rain kept falling. Back at Corner Needle, the singer purred again. Eli peeked over his textbook as Walter followed, clutching a paper bag with half the cinnamon roll. "We're friends now," Nora told Eli. "House rule." Walter watched Nora stitch a frayed suit jacket with the kind of focus reserved for prayer. He tapped the counter. "Your feed dogs are misaligned," she laughed. "English, sir?" He opened the machine gently, hands remembering blueprints and heat. Teeth guiding fabric, they're tired. In 15 minutes he had the singer humming like a choir. "How much?" Nora asked. "Coffee and conversation," he said. He glanced around the walls at photographs. Nora's grandfather, Samuel, smiling with a tape draped like a medal. A faded snapshot of Nora at 13, holding a crooked pillow, triumphant. "He taught you to mend," Walter said. "He taught me to see." Walter nodded, eyes wet. "Then we speak the same language." Landlord Victor Crane smelled like expensive soap and unpaid patience. He glanced at the ceiling stain, charting the leak over the cutting table. "Rent's late again, Nora," she sighed. 2 days. The suit order pays Friday." He looked, past her to Walter, lips curdling. "No loitering." Walter straightened. "I'm a customer." Victor snapped, "Buy something then." Nora's spine went straight as a steel ruler. He already did. Victor placed an envelope on the counter. "New terms. Rent increases next month. Buildings going luxury. Don't be the last to—" "Move!" Eli stood, shoulders tight. Nora opened the envelope and read numbers that made her throat close. "You can't do this." Victor's smile was a shudder. "I just did." Walter's hands trembled. "We're talking about home." Victor shrugged. "I'm talking about business." He turned. The bell chimed, and Winter followed him. Out. The singer kept purring like defiance under breath. Late afternoon laid amber light across Main Street. A pack of motorcycles rolled past, low, heavy, controlled. Patches flashed, skull wings over red and white. Walter turned his face, emotion, flickering fast as spark. He whispered, almost afraid of the air. "My boy." Nora followed his gaze. At the end of the block, riders parked in formation. One stepped off a matte black Harley. Big shoulders, beard like nightfall. On his vest, Hell's Angels, Roanoke. Bottom rocker, Virginia. Top rocker, Mason. Walter reached for the counter, steadying. "Haven't seen him since years." "Do you want to?" Nora asked. Walter hesitated, bruised by time and silence. "I've wanted nothing else." The riders spoke low, respectful, like people who understand gravity. The man called Mason checked addresses on his phone, eyes skimming storefronts. When he saw "Corner Needle," something in his jaw eased, like a lock remembering its key. Thunder answered. The doorbell sang a small, brave note. The rider filled the frame, rain freckles on leather. Up close, his face carried years he hadn't chosen. His gaze landed on Walter, then Nora, then the photographs on the wall. He swallowed. "Sir?" Nora glanced at Walter, then back at the man. "We're closed in 10 minutes, she said softly, buying him time to shape words. He removed his helmet. "Name's Mason Reed." Walter's breath hitched. "Son." The room shrank to a needle's eye. Mason's jaw worked, memories catching. "I looked for you. Thought you didn't want to be found." Walter shook his head. "I thought I'd make your life lighter by disappearing." "It didn't," Mason said. "It hurt more." Silence held them, then released, a stitch drawn through cloth, pulling edges together. "Coffee?" Nora asked. Both men nodded like truce. Outside, rain applauded. Inside, family took a cautious seat. They sat at the cutting table like it was a church pew. Mason's voice was gravel and gratitude. "Ma died when I was 19. We blamed each other for years we didn't have." Walter nodded, shoulders caving, then rising. "I chose pride over home." Mason looked at Nora. "He said you bought him coffee." Nora shrugged. "Everyone deserves a warm seat." Mason's eyes softened. "Not everyone offers one." He glanced at the envelope on the counter, the rent hike screaming quietly. "You're getting squeezed," Nora exhaled. "We'll figure it out." Mason's mouth twitched. "Figuring's easier with friends." Walter reached for Mason's hand. Calluses met calluses, nothing eloquent, everything true. Eli pretended to study, eyes shining. The shop breathed differently, like a window had opened. Outside, the streetlights buzzed awake. Inside, something older than anger settled, a vow trying on its voice. Nora nodded, listening close. Suspense threaded the days that followed. Victor Crane posted a bright new sign. "Coming soon, luxury lofts." Tenants whispered. Rents crept like Ivy Corner Needle stood stubborn as a dandelion in concrete. Mason started stopping by between rides, fixing the jammed back door, replacing flickering bulbs, checking who lingered outside too long. Eli watched him with scientific curiosity. "Are you dangerous?" Mason grinned. "I'm careful." Walter came each morning with pastries he couldn't afford, insisting cinnamon helped machines run smoother. Nora stitched and counted and prayed in motion. News spread that the seamstress had befriended a man the city forgot, and that the man had a son whose brothers rode thunder. Some folks crossed the street, others crossed the threshold with broken zippers and apologies. The café manager nodded at Walter now, A truce brewed in public. The sign across the street gleamed louder. People noticed. The first cliffhanger came. On a winded Tuesday, Nora returned from a delivery to find the front window cracked, spiderweb lines anchoring a small hole. A rock lay on the floor beside a note. "Time's up." Eli's face went colorless. Walter gripped the counter. "Victor," he breathed. Mason arrived moments later, rain steaming off his shoulders. He read the note, eyes becoming winter. "No." "Police?" Nora hesitated. "I'm scared he'll make it worse." Mason nodded once. "Okay, then we handle it." He swept the floor, bagged the rock with deliberate care, checked blind corners, checked roofs, checked his brother's angles. Eli watched a lesson in war taught by a man who preferred peace. "We'll be here open and unafraid tomorrow," Mason said. "Fear isn't invited." Nora set the closed sign straight, hands steady by decision. Outside, night fell like a curtain that still lets light through. Enough. Nora didn't sleep much. She stitched to quiet, needle tapping a metronome for hope. Around midnight, footsteps paused outside her apartment door. Eli froze. Nora grabbed the heaviest scissors, breath anchored in the lowest part of her lungs. The steps moved on. In the morning, a city inspector arrived with a citation list long as a wedding train. "Anonymous complaint," he said. Fines she couldn't pay glared. In official ink. Tears rose, then receded. She called Walter. He called Mason. The Angels van pulled up with toolboxes and a man who could charm permits out of brick. They fixed the railing, replaced fire extinguishers, restriped steps, documented everything respectfully. "Paper beats rumor," Mason said, sliding the inspection packet back to the official. The inspector cleared his throat, embarrassed. "Looks, compliant." Nora nodded, chin high. The singer started again, low and faithful, choosing courage by repetition. The second cliffhanger snapped on a Saturday. Walter didn't show for coffee. Nora checked the café, the park, the laundromat stairs. Nothing. Panic spooled fast. "She," called Mason. He answered on the first ring. "I'm on it." Within an hour, 3 riders were canvassing shelters and hospitals. Nora searched alleys, calling his name until her throat rasped. At dusk, a text arrived from an unknown number. "He's fine. Bring 50 grand to the River Lot. Come alone." Nora's knees buckled. Mason read the message, fury controlled, calibrated. "It's a trap," Eli whispered. "Yes," Mason said, "so we won't step in it." "We'll make them step." Nora's hands shook. "We don't have money." "We have proof," Mason said, tapping his vest. He called 2 brothers and a lawyer who owed him kindness. Plans formed like patterns. Nora exhaled, slow. "Bring." Nothing else. They staged the river lot like a chessboard. Nora arrived first, carrying a duffel of denim scraps beneath a layer of old receipts. She parked under the flickering light, every nerve awake. From the shadows, Victor stepped out with 2 men whose knuckles told bad stories. Walter sat behind them, wrists bound, breathing shallow. "You brought money?" Victor asked, voice smug. "I brought enough," Nora answered, shoving the bag toward him. His eyes glittered mean. "You're going to sign the place over or lose more than windows." A low rumble announced arrival. 2 bikes rolled in slow, lights off, becoming shape and promise. Mason's voice carried like law from an older court. "Extortion's a felony, Vic." Victor laughed. "You brought bikers?" "I brought witnesses," Mason said. "And audio." One brother lifted a phone, red light blinking. Victor's smug cracked, then shattered. Somewhere sirens woke. It didn't become a brawl, it became a record. 2 riders streamed, body cams capturing every threat, every demand. Mason read the extortion statute like he'd memorized it for nights like this. Victor swore, swung, missed. The angels didn't. They disarmed without breaking bones, bound hands with zip ties, kept Walter shielded. Nora cut his ropes with her tailoring shears, hands gentle, fury precise. Sirens grew from the distance, not summoned by Victor, but by prearranged calls Nora's customers had placed the moment the message pinged. The cafe manager arrived, shaking, pointing at Victor's note she had wisely photographed. Cops took statements. Cuffs clicked like punctuation. Walter leaned on Nora, breath returning in small, stubborn sips. Mason stood between them and the blue lights, answering questions with calm that made uniforms listen. The river smelled like iron and rain. Walter whispered, "I thought I'd lost my boy again." "Not today," Mason said, after statements, and long hours. Dawn rinsed the town. Walter slept in the back room while Eli brewed coffee strong enough to stand. Nora sat on the floor, back against the notions cabinet, finally letting tears find daylight. Mason lowered himself beside her, boots careful near scattered pins. "You did good," he said. She laughed wetly. "I was terrified." "Being brave is doing it anyway." He looked at her hands, thread-cut scars. "My mom had those." Nora swallowed. "She teach you to ride?" "She taught me to stay." He handed her a napkin. "Look, I know what folks say about us. Sometimes they're right, often they aren't, but this—" He gestured around at Eli, at Walter's soft snoring. "This matters." Nora breathed, warmth opening windows inside her chest. "It does." Outside, the sky turned cotton candy pale. Morning felt newly possible. Weeks later, letters arrived. The city dismissed the fines after further review. Victor faced charges, tenants organized, rent stabilized. The cafe started a pay-it-forward board, coffee prepaid for anyone short on dignity or dollars. Nora hung a new photo, Walter grinning between Eli and Mason, 3 generations stitched into one frame. Business grew. What Nora couldn't afford to advertise, kindness did. Mason showed up with a toolbox and never quite left. He learned to pin hems. She learned to ride pillion, arms around a future she didn't think she deserved. Walter repaired a neighbor's furnace with leftover parts and free wisdom. On Friday nights, the block felt like a block again. Kids chalking sidewalks, elders arguing about pie. Eli aced algebra, then fixed the card reader with YouTube and faith. At close, Nora tallied receipts and smiled at enough. Hope filled the doorway. Third cliffhanger, a rumor. A developer from out of state sniffed around, promising to buy the block in cash. People panicked. Nora steadied herself with inventory, lists and deep breaths. Mason made calls, the kind of quiet ones that move mountains. A week later, he brought Walter and Eli to a downtown office with tall windows and a kind-faced banker. Papers waited on a polished table. "What is this?" Nora asked, wary. Mason rubbed his neck, suddenly boyish. "An opportunity, community co-op. We buy the building together. Sweat equity counts. Your shop anchors." Nora's breath caught. "We don't have that kind of money." "You have people," the banker said, sliding a folder of pledges, "and small business grants and a bridge loan." Walter's eyes shone. "I built bridges. Now we cross one." Nora looked from Eli to Mason to the city beyond glass and said, "Okay. Take your—" Time climax arrived in soft clothes. No chase, no neon. Just a ribbon cutting on a Saturday, a brass band slightly out of tune, and neighbors shoulder to shoulder like a quilt. The plaque read, "Corner Needle Co-op, owned by the people it serves." The mayor spoke. The banker waved. Eli filmed with happy tears he pretended were allergies. Nora thanked too many to count, saving 2 names for last. "Walter," she said, voice steady, "you taught me bridges can be built after collapse." He bowed, eyes damp. "Mason," she continued, "you taught me protection doesn't have to shout. It can simply stay." Mason looked away, smiling like a secret had just been told. The band stumbled into When the Saints. The crowd sang off-key, perfect anyway. A breeze lifted the ribbon ends. Somewhere a motorcycle answered, not loud, just loyal. Resolution unfolded like good fabric. No drama, just strength. Corner Needle expanded a classroom, teaching mending to teens, who thought nothing could be saved. The cafe's pay-it-forward board stayed full. Victor's former empty lofts became affordable studios for artists and elders. Mason took Walter on long rides, slow and safe, stopping at rivers where apologies could breathe. At closing time, Nora and Mason sometimes sat on the stoop, knees almost touching, talking about nothing and everything, Eli's scholarship hopes, the perfect hem length, rain predictions. One evening, Mason pulled a small patch from his vest pocket, an angel wing stitched in white. "For the shop," he said. Nora pinned it beside Samuel's photo, a promise threaded to memory. They didn't call it family. They didn't have two. It felt like standing in a room that finally fit, final beat, quiet and true. Walter arrived early with 2 coffees, hands steadier these days. He set one beside the new singer. "For the girl who bought me coffee and gave me my life back," he said. Nora hugged him gentle. Mason appeared in the doorway, sunlight crowning the skull wings patch, eyes soft as the day they found home again. He held up a tin of cinnamon rolls, surrendering. "Breakfast tax," Nora laughed. The 3 of them stood in the small shop that had survived pressure and rumor and winter. Traffic hummed a city lullaby. Eli thundered down the stairs, late and grinning. "Big day," he said. "Always," Nora answered. She glanced at the first rock, now living in a shadow box labeled "We Kept the Window." The singer purred. Outside, Main Street shone like a new thread. Home changes the weather. Epilogue carried a soft roar. The co-op's first scholarship bore Samuel Ellis's name. The second bore Margaret Reed's because mothers teach steady hands. On Sundays, the block sounded like laughter and bike engines, a hymn with chrome harmony. Nora taught Eli the business ledger. He taught her to rest. Mason kept a spare helmet on a hook by the register, unspoken invitation. Walter planted basil in a window box and told every customer that bridges can grow leaves. On the anniversary of that first coffee, they met at the cafe's corner table. Jake, now manager, comped their order and blushed. "I'm still learning," he said. "We all are," Nora answered. She lifted her cup. "To small kindnesses," Mason lifted his. "To sturdy promises," Walter lifted his. 2 chairs pulled out at the right time. They drank. A motorcycle rumbled somewhere gentle, like a heartbeat remembering courage. If this story warmed you, pass it on. Someone nearby needs a small kindness today. Tap like, subscribe, and press the bell so you never miss a tale of courage, mercy, and second chances. Tell us where you're watching from. We read every comment. And brew an extra cup for you.